少年ジャンプス。
Welcome back to Shonen Chumps, the only anime podcast on the gosh darn internet that features the three of us. As always, I'm Brennan.
I'm Sean.
I'm Dylan.
And if you didn't know what we do here, we watch anime and then we hang out and talk about it. This week's episode is on Keep Your Dirty, Tiny, Grubby Hands Off Eizouken.
Okay, cool. So as always, you can reach out to us at shonenchumps@gmail.com, or you can tweet at us at shonenchumps, and you can listen to us on Apple iTunes Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, etc., everywhere.
That's right.
Okay, so guys, in one sentence, what did you think about Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken?
Okay, I'll start. As is tradition here. My sentence is just the most endearing piece of anime that we've seen so far, or that I've seen so far. ... But gosh darn, those subs are fast. Period.
Cool, Brennan.
I was expecting something good, and I got something unbelievably great.
Yeah. As usual, this is my question, and I don't really have a sentence locked down. But yeah, I think this is one of the best anime we've watched in our podcast run, and it was just awesome. Also, the subs are incredibly fast.
Yeah, that was maybe my one, I sound like an asshole, but I really wish I could have watched this in English. And only because sometimes I was pausing to read the subs, because it was just happening so fast, and especially when they were kind of imagining things, and there was those all those notes in the background, kind of their created world, where they're like, oh yeah, this UFO uses this to fly, and it's all this background information. I wanted to read that, so I would pause and kind of read that stuff too. And so yeah, there was a lot of pausing that I had to do.
I was pausing every 10 seconds. I'm going on the record to say that it is impossible to watch the show without pausing if you're not a native Japanese speaker.
Yeah.
I can say I only paused it to look at the diagrams, but we'll get more into that later, I think.
At a certain point, I kind of stopped pausing as much because I didn't want it to impede the flow of the show. And so I know that the diagrams things, I think, they are supplementary, and I think you're not supposed to read every little thing. So so sometimes I kind of paused it momentarily to just get the gist of some things and then follow along. But I always paused, obviously, because I didn't want to miss dialogue. So if I ever missed dialogue, I paused.
Okay, here's the thing. I totally get where you guys are coming from. But I did want to read every tiny detail about this show because there's so much to say about how good and how rich this show is. This show is literally packed to the brim, and yeah, digesting it all in one go takes a lot. I did rewatch a bunch of episodes just to take stuff in a second time and see if I was missing anything when I did catch little things here and there. But yeah, I don't want to complain about this show out of the gate because holy fuck did I love this. It was amazing. I think a couple weeks ago when Dylan said Beastars was the best modern anime that we've seen for the podcast so far, my only thought was I think the exact same thing, but about Eizouken.
Right. At that point, I hadn't even seen Eizouken, so...
Yeah, how are we pronouncing that? Eizouken?
Yeah, because
Eizouken.
I thought it was Eizouken until I heard Brendan say it like 5 minutes ago on the podcast. On this podcast.
Because the actual word is... the Eizouken's like a shortened form for Video Research Club, which is Eizo Kenkyu Dokokai, which is the Film Research Club, or like the Video Research Club, which is what their anime studio is, essentially. It's just the shortened version. It's just an abbreviation. It's like calling it the Vid Club instead of the Video Club.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so what were you guys expecting just off the bat, like when you heard about this show? Because like all I knew was that it was directed by Masaki Yuasa, who did Devilman Crybaby and a bunch of other cool stuff. So I was just excited naturally to see what his studio, Science Saru, had in store for us with their next anime.
That's really funny, because something that if I knew that this person made Devilman Crybaby, I'd be a lot less excited, because I would think like, I'm gonna watch something really fucked up now. Right, but I knew nothing about the anime.
Again, this is like an adaptation from a manga by Sumito Awara, but
right,
it is, you can see Yuasa's flavor all over it.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Now that you've like, once you said it, I was like, oh yeah, that kind of animation style even does remind me of Devilman Crybaby.
Yeah, for sure, because the characters aren't like shaded, which I really like.
Yeah, that's their studio's like signature style, it seems. It's very kind of flat looking stuff, but
yeah, it's very dope.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Fantastic.
Yeah, all I knew about the show, I think Brennan had mentioned it a few times as a show that we should watch when it finished to record a podcast for, so I knew it must have been good. I think I'd heard about it a bit on the internet, just in headlines about how good it was, and then I was listening to an episode of the Easy Allies podcast or something like that, where one of the guys there said that the show was very, very good, and that it had a sympathetic view towards producers, which I realized that it very much does. There's like no shows that go into like the plight of being a producer or a good producer.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, even amongst like the shows that are about making anime or like anime about anime, it's always the actual animators or like the artists, but we don't really see too much of the behind the scenes kind of stuff.
Actually, we do see it a lot in Shirobako. Now that I'm thinking about it again, like that show is literally all about like a female producer running around and wrangling people, trying to get the best animators to do the best stuff. But it's more like the personality of that main character would be like Mizusaki in this one, the rich girl, being like the cheery producer running around to everybody. So it's definitely got a different dynamic. But it actually is a very similar show. Like it's about a group of 4 friends who are all girls who like grow up to make anime, and like some of them are voice actresses, some of them are producers, some of them are animators, which is, yeah, it's interesting.
That's super cool.
Not as charming as this show.
Right, because yeah, you mentioned Shirobako a couple times on the podcast. So I was a bit surprised because like, I had no idea what this was about. So I was really surprised to see that it was about making anime. And then I thought about it. I was like, didn't Sean recommend an anime that was about making anime? And I was like, it wasn't this though, because this is new. But I wasn't sure.
And for like over 5 years, Shirobako was the best anime about this. But now this is out, and I guess it's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, that's the thing. After Sean's recommendations for Shirobako, it's pretty high at the top of my to watch list. And like when I started this, I did not realize it was about making anime at all. Even like within the first couple episodes, even I didn't realize it was about making anime specifically, because they don't really solidify their club until a couple episodes in. I was just kind of, first of all, the world design, like the design of their town is so interesting and whimsical and beautiful, and it looks like something that's completely out of like a fantasy novel or like a Ghibli movie or something. It's like one giant Howl's Moving Castle, but with like greenery and shit.
That's the one thing I wanted to bring up about this show that was like the greatest thing besides like the lovable characters was like just the level design of the city.
Yeah,
Like, all the
it's
different
beautiful.
aesthetics that it has like crammed into a specific area, and all the like weaving passageways and weaving alleyways that go into each other remind me of that stupid city in Final Fantasy 15 and stuff like that.
Yeah, the one that's like modeled after Venice or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like it's so interesting, but at the same time they sell it so well as like an average kind of town, like a place where real people live almost, like with all the tiny environmental details, which I guess we'll talk about in further depth. But like I think right off the bat, something that really kind of impressed me about this show is that it almost felt like it was a show that's made entirely to appeal to artists. Like it wasn't scared of isolating some of its viewers with how deep it's willing to go into like design and like design ideas and stuff that, I don't know, generally a lot of people don't think about. And like maybe a lot of people wouldn't find fascinating. Like people love watching anime and seeing like cool action and animation and stuff, but like the nitty gritty of it can be kind of dry sometimes. And the fact that they were willing, like just within the first couple of those like weird, like surreal sequences where they have like the dragonfly ship and like we're seeing some of Asakusa's designs and stuff like that, and she's explaining like why things work. Like that's something that's true to life, like in real concept design, in like real environment design. Like you need to be answering reasons why things are the way they are, and like superimposing like reality on top of like fantasy. Like okay, it's a dragonfly airship, personal helicopter or whatever, but how does it work? And she has reasons for all of those things. And like we were talking about like 10 seconds ago, where we would have to pause and look at those design documents to catch every tiny detail. I made sure to do that for every single one of these because I wanted to see how far they were willing to go. And the answer is really fucking far.
Yeah, the show does a good job at showing you what it's like to be an amateur at something just getting started out. Because when you're an amateur and you say like, hey, I want to get into like, I don't know, concept art or game design or fucking like painting, you think that you know a lot more than you do know. There's like a lot of unknown knowns or known unknowns before you jump in, and then you're hit with a wall and you realize how many things you don't actually know. And then like the mountain of things that you need to learn like grows steadily in front of you, and it's like really intimidating. And this show does a great job at showing that, and how you need to like think through the process of how everything is made. Because like just say you want to get into painting before you're a painter, you just think like, oh yeah, you just like throw random shapes out there and make a cool looking pose, and then your painting is going to be awesome. But then you don't realize that there's all these like roadblocks in the way that every painter before you has had to like think about and mull over before they make any good piece of art. And you also need to learn all of those fundamentals before you can make anything worthwhile.
Right, yeah. That foundational knowledge is key, because if you don't have anything to build off of, like you can't, like that's the thing. It's like with every amateur creative human, like you want to be doing the things that your idols are doing, or like the people that you look up to are doing, but you don't realize that like they're bending and breaking rules that they've known for so long. And that they've used as a foundation to sort of build themselves up to that point, which is like actually interesting when we get to our characters, like Asakusa, Kanamori, and Mizusaki. Like they all start off from a point where they're like very skilled. Like to the like in the first episode we see Asakusa just kind of sketching out the layout of the school, and like she's kind of pitching her idea to Kanamori, like that she wants to like set something here. Like she's got like designs or whatever, and like they're really good already. They're all like, she's an excellent artist.
Dude, not just that, but fucking Kanamori is one of the best producers I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Just insane,
yeah. She's got,
dude. I've met people like 3 times her age who can't do half as much as she's done. in
Yeah,
real
it's
life.
it's pretty bonkers. But it does make like a very interesting dynamic. Like we're so used to seeing characters who want to do something great, like I don't know, in every shonen anime, for example. Um but like yeah, they're starting from zero and it's about them like learning and yada yada, but like with this show it's more about like mastery, and on top of that like it does shed a lot of light on like the real Japanese animation industry, and like it has some pretty strong commentary on like things that are like systems and foundations that are in place as of right now that aren't working, and like real challenges that animators and creative people face like as a whole.
Right. I
Yeah.
think that the show is like it's mainly about the production process and like being a producer. Because yeah, there's a lot of creative segments which are like the big whimsical, painty, like watercolory segments of the show, but it's mainly about the logistics of getting something done.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I mean, in terms of like your comparison to a shonen, that's like, that's about like personal growth, or like, oh, this person's getting better. Whereas this is a celebration of creating anime, right? Or like what it is, not about getting better to make anime. It's a celebration of what it is, and that is just like, man, that's like one way to hook me really easily. Anything that celebrates like film or art, like that, like is about making it, and like the creative process is just really like that always kind of interests me. And they did it in a really good way because, like you said, like a lot of these, like they go really deep into the production of anime, and like I don't know, you're like learning along the way. Like I mean, I was learning more about the process like through the show, and like I already kind of understood it for a little bit, but it's really easy for this kind of thing, if the way like this information, to be dry, but they do it in such like a really good way because these characters are so lovable, and because they're like young kids and they're kind of uh so bright-eyed about the whole thing, and they're just like really excited about anime. It makes you get really excited about like simple things. I wrote down that I got hooked. Like I really started to love the show when they were discussing how to make the windmill moving look realistic, right? And like I don't know, that seems like it could just be like on paper. That seems like it could be just such a boring thing, right? Or like such a weird thing to like hook you. But like that really hooked me because they were really excited about it, and I don't know, it was just like that
Dude,
kind of excitement is just like kind of contagious. You know what I mean?
yeah, I agree completely. Like it's um like any time, like it's so funny because um Asakusa, who essentially acts as like the director of their studio but is also like their environment artist, she's got her own like crazy spiral of stuff that she's obsessed with in terms of design, like all of her mechanical designs and all of her like environment designs. And yeah, Mizusaki is super also like obsessed about the way people move and characters sort of like exist on screen. And like that's a thing, man. It's they do it in such a cool way. Like they express these characters' passions in ways that are like so engaging for the viewer. Like you're just hooked. You're just along for the ride the entire time. Like, and also they're making nods to really cool shit along the way. Just like all over this show. It's just I've got so many examples scattered through my notes, but like while we're talking about like the character motions being interesting, do you remember the part, I think it might have been episode 3, when they're talking about how animators have like a sword beside their desk,
Yeah,
and they
so
use it to
cool.
pose and stuff? Like it's funny because in that sequence they cut away to like a sketch, like an actual animation of Ogami Ito from Lone Wolf and Cub, and I was like, wow, that's a deep cut, also very nice. um
Is that a character or an
Yo, I was about to
animator?
say that's such a deep cut that I have no idea what you're talking about, Brennan.
Okay, so Ogami Ito is like the main character of the film series and manga series Lone Wolf and Cub, which is like a samurai Chambara series, essentially. There's 6 films and like a bunch of volumes of the manga, and it is fucking excellent, all of it. And like they literally had the exact, like a drawing of the actor Tomisaburo Wakayama doing all those sword motions or whatever. Like they could have drawn any samurai. It could have been any samurai, but that was like a heavy nod. And then like later on when they're doing their second production and they've got like sketches for like a giant robot, a lot of the robot parts are nods to other famous giant robots. Like there's clearly like a leg that belongs to a Zaku from Gundam, or like an arm or a hand that looks like it came off of an Eva or whatever. I don't know. They execute so well throughout the show, and it's fantastic.
Oh yeah, sorry guys. Something that I wanted to bring up, which when you guys were talking about the world, did you guys get Fooly Cooly vibes at any point?
Dude, I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay,
Because
good.
not just original Fooly Cooly, but the Fooly Cooly installment that none of you guys have seen, Fooly Cooly 3, that has 4 female characters all like chilling out and hanging out, felt
Oh,
a lot
shit.
like this.
Yeah. Yeah, because like even I mean that's alternative, right? The one
I
that
think
you're
it's
referencing.
progressive.
Oh,
No,
okay.
you know
No,
what?
I think
don't
it's
remember the
alternative.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty sure we saw progressive. Yeah, no, I got like such vibes from it. Just like I like you guys were talking about like the town specifically. Like I got those kind of vibes. Like it's this town where it's like secretly special. Like I don't know, because it just felt like such a unique setting, and we're situated on these young characters. Like I got those vibes. And then there's like there's like a soundtrack, or there's like a song in the soundtrack that felt very Fooly Cooly to me. I actually
know
thought,
exactly what you're talking
like, I was like, did the Pillows write this too? Because like it felt super Fooly Cooly to me, and that was like really very much appreciated. Like it was like a really nice parallel for me to think about while watching this show, because it did always feel like that this was not just a regular town. These were not just regular characters. Like there's something special about this place, something magical about this place, and I think Fooly Cooly gave me those vibes as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's definitely the painted or like the watercolor backgrounds at times gave me that sort of washed out feeling that we got from the environments in Fooly Cooly. And yeah, for sure that like guitar lick that like shows up every time. Yeah. Like the thing is, I was
here's
waiting
that.
for it to drop the entire time. I was like, oh, when's it gonna start rocking? But like it kind of doesn't. It just kind of like peters out a little bit, and I was like,
Yeah, it's
I
got
guess
that
it can't all be the
riff-
Pillows.
riff that's like
Yeah, and that too. Man, if it ever dropped, I'd probably lose my mind. I'd be so excited.
I was waiting for it, and it didn't happen. But like, you know what? I like this flavor also. Like,
Yeah, no, I like where it was
can
at,
be
because
something.
it was subtle. It was almost like
Yeah, 100%.
just like a subconscious thing that makes you like think back on that. And I don't know, just it lent itself to the vibe like super well. And like kind of any time the
Right.
lick came in, I got like really excited about it.
Yeah, because it was usually at a hype moment when somebody
Yeah.
gets a good idea. Where
Yeah.
they're like looking off into the sunset at like the crazy town.
Yeah. Actually, on that note, while we're just talking about music, I gotta say, I absolutely loved the opening song. And like, listeners of the show who have
Yes,
listened to the
dude.
last like couple episodes, you probably know right now that I have a broken arm. But it was like really hard not to like thrust my arms in the positions of them like dancing, like
So
while it was
good.
happening. And I was trying to, because I just got like so into it every time it played.
Oh,
Oh,
I just
God.
remembered one of the places that I heard about the show first.
Oh,
So I'm in this Facebook group for Twin Peaks fans that just posts memes, like dumb memes about the show all the time. You guys are probably in this Facebook group too.
Yep.
We are, yes.
And I saw an image of Asakusa in doing her weird arm pose from the opening of the show, and it just said "See you again in 25 years."
Oh wow,
That's like when I first saw one of the characters from the show. It was very
That's
funny.
amazing.
that's pretty good.
I gotta say,
That's
I'm
pretty
really
good.
happy to know that someone who's watching Eizouken is also watching Twin Peaks. That's great.
Me too.
Adds up, makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, the opening fucking rules. KYHOE, which is the rap duo who did the song, fucking rule.
Oh shit! Now I
They're a rap duo?
Yeah, they're a rap duo.
Oh.
Yeah, they've got a lot of good music. I would recommend their album Power.
Sick.
But yeah, they absolutely slapped the intro. And fun fact, one of the guys who did a bunch of the animations for the intro, if not the main dude at Science Saru, took inspiration from some of Drake's dance moves. In Hotline Bling.
That is hilarious and makes a lot of
all
sense.
comes around. It always comes back
To Drake.
Yup.
to Drake.
There's no escaping. Top five, top five, top five.
Oh my god.
Also, I just want to say that if any of you guys, any of our listeners, if you've seen the 2C slide video, tell us what you think about that, because I think we all think that Drake's house is very tacky.
Yeah. It's,
Back to the show.
gross.
It surely was not designed by Asakusa.
Yeah, it looks like some fucking jank ass like Final Fantasy VII environment, remake environment.
I wish that I knew what that looked like.
So yo, I've got to talk about, I think we should talk about the stages that we watch the Eizouken go throughout this show, because they work on 3 different productions and all 3 of those end up being sick. But not just the final product, but like everything that leads up to it. And like I think the first one culminates at the like with the scene where they're talking to the student council and trying to get legitimized.
Yeah.
That entire scene, I think it was episode 4, was amazing. First of all, it was hilarious. It was very funny, and it was paced very well. And I like how they have an entire club that is dedicated riot police.
Yeah, the security club.
It's really
I
fucking
love
funny.
it, dude. I made a note of that too. I was like, oh my god, there's a security club.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know, just the presentation of that whole episode was amazing, especially when they worked in like that weird bending reality element to the audience experience of their final product, which was like beautiful to look at, like the audience getting whipped in the face by wind, or like hearing stuff like shit collapsing in the theater that they're in as stuff is collapsing in the movie. I don't know. I thought the way it was cut, I thought the way it was executed was immaculate.
Yeah, I guess they had to do something, because like to us the entire show is 2D, just like what they're watching on screen, so they needed to like fuck with us somehow, which is why I guess they have that elaborate production and all the characters in the audience are like asking if it's 4D or something.
Right.
Right, yeah.
I just liked that this kind of like the fantasy that they're all imagining. Like first I was saying like I loved that all 3 of them are imagining it together kind of initially when they're talking about ideas, like even Kanamori, who's like kind of less concerned with like the anime. Initially she's just like, this is like a good way to make money. She says like something like that, like early on. But I just like that, yeah, like the audience was experiencing the fantasy too. It kind of just like lent itself to like the kind of like the transformative power of like good art, you know when you watch
100%.
something that really moves you, like that the fact that they were experiencing like the things coming at them, it just felt kind of yeah, like thinking about like when you see something that really like moves you, and it was like a cool way to show that physically. like in the show that like it
Yeah.
like it deeply touched everyone. Like I really enjoyed that.
For sure.
I also really liked the title of the first anime, their first episode or their first short. It's called "Hold That Machete Tight." Very sick.
Oh,
right? Yeah. Holy fuck.
And even their logo, it's like very like 30s Disney or something, like with like the film and like the little walking animation. So cool.
You know what's funny about that is that's a nod. It's a nod to Science Saru's actual logo, which is a monkey that walks with those exact same feet in that exact same way. Oh yeah, another thing. Like moving on to the next thing that they work on, which is the giant robot anime. Something like one of the scenes that I had to take a note about because it was so funny was Asakusa and Mizusaki bonding and getting emotional with the head of the robot club or the
Yeah.
I almost said Gundam club, but I think the quote was every night I cry in the bath thinking about how big the universe is, and every night before I go to bed I try doing a Hadoken. And then
Oh yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, and then the fucking president's like, every time I sit on the toilet I pretend I'm piloting a Gundam. And in the background Kanamori's just like, why are you like fraternizing with the enemy?
Yeah, no, I have the quote.
It's
I have huge problems with people who solve problems with emotional appeals because they're all crying and they shake hands and she's just in the background.
So good. Honestly, I think Kanamori is one of my favorite characters, period. Just like ever.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I mean,
great.
she was my favorite character in the show. She was just so funny and like such a boss. Like Sean said, she's just like the best producer ever. And it's really just cool seeing her just like kick ass and kind of just like run shit. And like anytime they're like worried about something, she's like, it's not a problem. I'll do this.
Like kick ass quite literally sometimes. Like she goes and blackmails people and like close to the end she saws through a door and like goddamn, she's such a badass and she's just so evil. It's so funny.
Kind of
and
money.
like what's dude, yes. Like that's the thing. It's like early on, so like the Japanese word for money is okane, and I was like, Kanamori. Kanemori? And then later on, that's the joke.
I like when she's on her phone and she turns around to the other girls and says, "There is nothing fun about social media."
Right. I think I screenshotted that actually because it was so funny to me.
I did too. Man, it's fact.
Yeah. That whole part was really cool. It's like it's interesting because up until now, I don't know about Shirobako, maybe Shirobako addressed it to some degree, but like social media is a huge part of marketing, period, in any industry. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're doing something creative that you need to sell, social media is a part of it. And like it sucks. It fucking sucks. But it's a necessary evil.
Yeah, but it's like it's cool the way she just like kind of takes charge of it. Like she knows what to do. Like she, even if it's a necessary evil, she like knows how to manipulate social media in their favor to get the thing made, to get the animes made. But it's
Right,
really cool,
yeah,
like the extent that she goes. Like when they're selling the robot anime, she holds up a sign that says like candid photos of Mizusaki, like, and
Yeah,
that's
that's
like
Yeah.
the bonus. And like I pause because it's so funny. They're just like there's like one of her playing with the sword, one of her drawing, one of her like falling asleep. It's really
It's so
good.
silly.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a
that's the
very
thing,
funny
it's like-
ploy.
Like Mizusaki does not, I mean, she's famous and she knows it, but like she doesn't necessarily know, like she's kind of naive in a way that she doesn't like really sell herself using her fame. But
Yeah,
Kanamori is like so fast to jump on that and be like, we're using you. You are our mascot now. And she's like, I don't want this to be about me. And then Kanamori's like, no, but we're not going to make any money unless it is. So suck it up.
yeah. I mean, use whatever you got.
I like how near the end they make a Kanamori seem more human by showing her get sick. Like even she can overwork herself, which is cool.
Right. Actually, I mean, on
Yeah, that
that
was
note,
really sweet.
they kind of gave each of the three characters like a flashback into their backstory, like showing like how they became the way they are. Like they show how Kanamori was like working hard for her uncle and aunt's like general store, and like Mizusake like getting really obsessed with just like motion and like loving the idea of like animation and recreating motion and those kinds of things. And obviously the show starts with Asakusa as a kid getting like transfixed by an anime and realizing like how cool it is that someone makes her anime, which I really appreciated those things.
Yeah, dude, Mizusaki even fits in the shot of her grandmother throwing the tea into the beginning of, I think, their robot anime.
Yeah.
That was so sweet. Oh yeah, the one thing I was gonna say was about or the one thing that was weird was because like they're like 14, so it's weird that she's like a celebrated model that like people want to meet. That was weird, right?
You got to think about how everything in Japan is aged down like 7 years.
Right.
Yeah, I never really thought about that.
Yeah, that was the only thing that I was like, huh, what?
Everybody in Japanese media is like 10 years younger than you think that they should be or are.
Yeah.
Dylan, all I'm grateful in the show is the fact that there's a whole bathhouse scene that isn't sexualized somehow.
Yeah. That actually
Wow.
that was something that I was gonna say was really great, which we haven't talked about, is that there are this show is led by women, and most of the supporting cast are also women. So that's like a really cool thing. Like you don't really see that in anime as much, or like I don't know how many we've seen like that. Maybe just like Kino's Journey and Violet Evergarden. Magus Bride kind of sucked, so I'm not even going to count that. But yeah, it was cool to just have these female characters, and they're not sexualized in any way, and it's about their dreams and aspirations. Like I felt like this is like a really important anime to make, and like subject matter to make, and it was just like super sweet that something was made that way, and they didn't resort to like sexualizing them, even in the bathhouse scene. Like in that bathhouse scene, it's just like a means to an end for them to like fantasize more about like these like underwater like waves and like cool things happening there, and then they just like eat and chill. It was like really sweet.
Yeah, actually,
for sure.
Bringing up Kino's Journey made me think of, because in Kino's Journey, I think for a certain point we weren't sure if Kino was a man or a woman.
Yeah,
like that was confusing. But that
Right.
reminded me of a character in this show, Parker Domeki, the audio club person, who I'd seen in like 2 episodes and thought was a dude, but is actually a girl.
Yeah, you're right. I was
yeah.
unsure of what if whether or not she was male or female. But I am excited that she is a brown character.
Dude,
Yeah.
I actually
There's a
like
couple
took a
of them in the
note.
show.
I was like, wow, a brown character. I'm so excited.
yeah, man. So like throughout this entire show, we see so many colored characters. Like while we're speaking about like representation, that was immensely cool, and it also ties into kind of like to a certain degree what the show's about, because like Asakusa has this sort of realization through the show and like through her environment, and she pulls like stuff from her real life and applies that to how she decides to direct her short films or whatever. And that's kind of true to life, because the mangaka Sumito Owara actually attended a racially diverse public elementary school, and she worked that into her own media that she ended up making. And yeah, I don't know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's incredibly dope.
That is really cool. And even just mentioning Parker now, it was really cool that even the supporting characters, because they're all in these clubs, like the whole thing just felt like a real like love letter to just like celebrating what your passionate about, like what you're excited about. Like the fact that there's a security club is like funny also, but because it just shows like all these clubs, they go over some of like the clubs. Like there's a club that's just like interested in like carbohydrates or something.
That's the best club.
Yeah, and it's just like really like cute and sweet that it's just like overall it's a celebration of just being excited or about what you're interested in, which like I really thought was like really nice. And like this like the audio club has all of these different recordings, and she's so passionate about maintaining them. And there's a lot of scenes where she's just recording stuff. Like there's a scene that I love in episode 11 where the security club storms the Eizouken to arrest the club that was going to make the DVDs for them. And when it pans out, you see that that like Parker's recording like while it happened. And I just kind of like love those like little details that is just like she sees this as like a cool sound effect, and so like it doesn't matter what's going on, it's like something to capture. I really liked that.
Yeah,
I really liked the attention to details, like stuff like that really kind of builds on the characters. And it was very much like, okay, what would this character do in this situation? And it like totally made sense. It wasn't just funny, it was true.
Right, yeah, that's really interesting. I don't think I noticed that happening in that scene when I watched it, which is cool. It takes me back to being in university myself and having to walk around with a stupid boom mic and record sound effects myself.
Yeah.
God, I went to a weird program, everybody.
To be fair, it was like it was like film, television, and radio production, so it did make sense that we had to do recording things.
It did feel stupid though, because it's like, do people really do this?
Yeah, but it was like really cool. Actually, yeah, I remember taking like a post-production sound class and like going out and just like into the city, or like I went to like into like forests and just like recorded sounds, and it's like a really cool thing to do. It's like it was really cool to see someone so passionate about that was like her thing. Like she was just going to forage for some sounds, and like they went to that abandoned building with like the English brick build or something, they said, with the big clock tower, and like she was just going to record sounds there, and like it wasn't something like she didn't even want all those guys to come with her. It was just like something that like she wanted to do. I really liked that.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's really cool how they give this entire school and just everyone in it life. Like I think my favorite episode might have been episode 8, where they're doing, I think it's a festival, and then that's where they have the screening of their robot fight movie.
Yeah, that was my favorite episode too, actually.
Yeah, it's just done so well. Like it's start to finish, it's just interesting. They have like Mizusaki's parents being like a looming threat at the beginning, and then it kind of comes full circle at the end when they sort of accept and they realize, they kind of put the puzzle pieces together, and they see like, oh, like throughout her life she's been interested in this thing, and that's how she's applying her interest to her career path. And like, yeah, it's just another one of those, like you said, it's like it's about people being passionate, and yeah, and you also get little tastes of everybody else's passion too, because there's so many other clubs, and it's just funny front to back.
Yeah, that episode also has a lot of just kind of like funny different segments that are almost just kind of like winks to other like genres. Like there's Kanamori helping, well, like when Mizusaki is running away, Mizusaki, I don't know how to say it, is running away from the student council, and Kanamori's on like a rooftop directing her how to go. Like she's like, all right, turn this way. It was very like kind of like a spy movie or something, like
yeah, like
directed,
a heist movie.
Yeah,
very Mission Impossible. Yeah. I was trying not to say Mission Impossible, but yeah, that's like exactly what I was thinking about. And then like a bunch of people in the robot suits, so you don't know who's who. And then Ono, the guy from like the president of the Robo Club, he's making a run, and he kind of like diverts their attention, so they start chasing after him. But while he's running, he has a microphone or something, and he's like kind of like announcing what he's doing. He's going like dun dun dun,
right,
like, and doing stuff like that. He takes like a zip line. It's like there's a lot of just like really funny segments in that episode, and because of that, because they're like running all around, you get a feel for the culture festival too, and like Brendan said, you see some of the other clubs, and it was just like really sweet, and it once again lended itself to this whole kind of feeling like this town, this city is like really unique and special. Yeah.
Like Kanamori blackmails the air conditioning club to lowering the temperature.
Dude, that was so funny because initially you don't know what they're talking about. She's like 16, like 18, and she's like, I said 16, and then you see them lowering and they're like sad. They're like, oh, what have we done? Oh god, the fact that there's an air conditioning club, like it's so funny, man.
It's amazing.
Oh man, yeah. For the show, they're like, what are they making a live action version of it soon? And they have like a mini series leading up to like, what is it, the movie or the main series? It's really dumb. What we really need instead of live action is a video game version. I want to be walking through the tight hallways and corridors of that city that all weave together like a Dark Souls game.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, what's the deal with this live action thing though? Because like I did hear about it. Or actually, on that note, like, is this kind of like a one and done anime?
Yeah,
or is there more coming?
It's self-contained.
Okay, cool. I really liked the way it ended, and I liked. I think it was kind of perfect the way it was. So I mean, I'm wondering about this live action thing. Like, I'm wondering how it will go.
I mean, like, Dylan, you know how all the characters in this show were 14, and we had that bathhouse scene that you were upset with because you didn't get what you want. Well, now,
wait, what?
I'm joking.
Oh, okay, I was like, wait.
Everybody in this live action thing is a pop idol.
Oh, really?
Yep.
You're aged up, baby.
It's so weird though, because it's like Asakusa is like a tiny little goblin. Why are you gonna go and cast her as like a literal idol? Like it strips all the charm away. It just makes all of these characters that are so distinct and unique basically into the idea of Mizusaki, which is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wrong. Kill it with fire.
Yeah. Not a fan. But also, like, I'm very surprised that this is popular enough that someone greenlit a live adaptation of it and was like, yeah, this is going to make money. People are going to watch this.
Yeah.
And they must have greenlit that before the anime had even, like, started.
Right, yeah, because it's coming out relatively soon.
Yeah, I think it got a bit delayed because of the coronavirus, from what I've heard. But maybe
dun, dun.
Strikes again. But yeah, you know, I agree with you that I liked where the show ended off. Like, I thought the finale was pretty great, and it was kind of just a moment for the animators to flex, basically, with that final movie. Like, it's just the best looking thing of all the things, arguably.
Is that when you see the camera panning out towards the whole globe and you see all the anime they made throughout the show?
Like, yeah, it gets real crazy.
Yeah, that was
cool. real wild.
Yeah, like the final message of the show is just like keep striving to be better, right? Because whatever we make, we can just make a better version. I mean, right?
Yeah, I love that. Like Asakusa looks out her window when everyone's watching this at home or whatever, and like, you know, the show started off with her being like, I want to create the greatest world. Like, I want to make the best thing I can imagine into someone's reality, the way that the anime I watched when I was younger was like an amazing, beautiful reality for me. And then she looks out the window and then she's seeing this apparition of like the shantytown buildings or whatever that were in the UFO film, like be seen by everyone and kind of rise up out of the earth. But like, it's still not enough. She's still like, yep, this is good, but we got to keep going. And I think that's like just the attitude of anyone who creates anything, or it should be the attitude. It's like, you should never be satisfied with your work. I mean, like, obviously you should be proud of yourself when you put work in and you achieve things and you improve, but an artist's work is never finished.
Right.
Oh, I was just gonna say at the end of the fair in episode 8, she says that the video that they made was only 20% good. So yeah, that makes sense. You always have
Right.
that like view of the work that you're putting out there that other
Yeah.
people probably don't have. I mean, unless they hate you.
Yeah, it was really cool the way because they do these kind of long cutscenes where they show what they produce. Like the anime that they make that we see has like its own distinct style from the look of the show, and it's very cool to see how they balance these different styles within the anime, because there's like the world, like there's what's happening with them, and then there's like their fantasy, which is like the more watercolory, like rough lines and things, and even sometimes the transitions were really cool between them. Like for example, in I think in episode 11, there's the scene where uh, Asakusa is she just thinks of a new plot for a new anime, like when they're at that clock tower, and
Right,
when it
yeah.
happens, the other three characters, the other three friends, they're playing like the bad guys who come to fight her, and then Kanamori like rips off the watercolor mask, and it's just like her regular face, and she's like, yeah, but you gotta like finish, you can't come up with a new plot, you have to finish the plot of the anime we're working on right
So
now.
funny. Oh
Yeah.
man,
Um,
I love that. Yeah, it's like we got the enforcer over here keeping our fucking dreamy art type in check.
yeah, like all these characters are so good and so like fleshed out, and like I don't know, it makes when they react and they do these situations, it's like it's just perfect. Like they react exactly as you like them. They're all so unique that kind of everything they do becomes like that much funnier when they do it. Like the way Kanamori and Asakusa bounce off each other is like a really funny relationship, because like she's Asakusa is just like, this big dreamer who's always thinking of new ideas, but like a producer has to rein her in, and like that's what she does, and it just like makes for like a really sweet dynamic. It's funny that she says like they're not friends; they have like a coexistence.
She
Like
says they're
that's what they're
comrades.
with. They're
All three of them
she's
say that they're comrades with each other, which kind of upsets me, but like I get it. But like I don't know, I don't like hearing people not call each other friends. That's upsetting.
yeah, right.
Wait, but like what they were hinting at is that they're more than friends. It's not like it was a knock on their friendship or something.
Right. But they don't say
like-
we're not just friends, we're comrades.
They
They
say
say,
we're not
no,
friends."
we are not friends. We're
Right.
comrades.
Honestly, that's probably like a sub issue, because in like what they literally said, they used the One Piece word. They used nakama, which is like, you don't call people your nakama. It's weird. You wouldn't go up to someone who's your friend and be like, yeah, we're nakama, right? Because it's, I don't know. It's like a more serious term of endearment. So like the insinuation is like, oh, we're in the trenches together. Like we are like more than just like passing acquaintances or whatever. So it didn't bug me.
Just one small thing I wanted to bring up is like I wanted the anime to like escalate in coolness. Maybe they did on like an animation perspective, but I thought the robot thing in the middle was cooler than the coexistence thing at the end. I don't know, did anybody else feel that way? We like built towards a less spectacular anime than we had in the middle.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's a good point. I probably agree with that. I even really liked the tank, the girl against the tank.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the idea of the tank was the coolest idea, and then the robot looked the best. And I think, yeah, I definitely agree. At the end, like they definitely went all out with the literal animation of it, because there was a lot going on and it was very crazy to watch that entire episode. But for the meaning they were going for, it didn't like hit me, even though like it was explained completely in their process of making it. When I watched it, I was like, wow, I'm very happy that they walked us through what every single part of this meant. Because if I just watched this in a vacuum, like if this wasn't part of a show and that short was literally just a short that existed in the world and I watched it, I would be so confused, and it would just be like an abstract piece of art. Sure. I'd be like, did David Lynch direct this? Like, what's going on?
I was literally just about to say that. I was going to say, like, I would have felt like I was watching a David Lynch short or something.
Also, I kind of liked how the show like showed you these big anime that the characters were working on, the 3 different ones through the series, and they looked good, but they didn't look good enough that it would like blow your mind. Like it was conceivable that like students would make something like this. So that was interesting, but like they could have taken it in a different direction where like the anime that the characters make is actually fucking awesome and is like the full capacity of what this studio in real life is capable of making. Because then that would have made the viewers at home feel like the 4D actionness that the characters in the show are feeling while watching it. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I think I like the decision to kind of make it a little rough around the edges.
Right.
Because it does feel more believable, especially given that there's literally like a 2-person crew in terms of like actual like the creative production. And then obviously Parker doing the audio. So like I think it made sense overall, and I think I liked that choice.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that they use the assets that they show in like the development process. Like, oh, they've got this like weird little piano song at the end of the 3rd movie, the 3rd short that they make, and like that is the song that you hear in the final, and like that's the song that they're talking about and discussing, and they're like, oh no, this is the wrong one, are you sure this is the one they sent or whatever. Like, yeah, it all adds up. Like it all makes sense. Like these are the parts that they use to put this final thing together. It wouldn't make sense if the final thing was much more polished than any of the parts were, you know?
Yeah, it really lent itself to the realism there.
Right.
One of the things I wanted to mention, just something I really liked, was at the beginning of episode 10, the Eizouken facing off against the teachers in that hearing is so good. Kanamori's like not even looking at them; she's just looking up at the ceiling while she talks to them and just pokes holes in everything. It reminded me of like The Social Network, where Mark Zuckerberg is just talking to the Harvard board, and he's like pretty much just like saying like, yeah, like what you're saying doesn't make sense. Like I found holes in your security system, and it was very like cool.
Snarkily saying everything like if you wanted to invent Facebook, you'd have invented Facebook.
Yeah. So it was super cool. I like that scene a lot. The way she just like kind of like run shit, and like I think that scene starts with her saying like, "There's so much I can poke holes in. I can't even talk right now." And then Asakusa's like, "Okay, but like that's not good because the 2 of us can't talk." So it's like very much like once again kind of like the characters like playing. So, like you know exactly how they react, and that's why it's so funny. Like her being like, "Yeah, but we can't talk, so like you have to talk."
Right, it's really good.
Yeah.
I want to say that I have a lot of sympathy for some of the stuff that goes on in the show, and like I relate a lot to it. Like how when the animators can't animate as many frames as they need to, then they need to resort to software to animating the in between frames. There's that shit. There's a turning towards the art club to fill in the backgrounds, even though they're dealing with like that one guy who keeps complaining, who's like, "Oh man, this director doesn't even know what she's doing. This is awful." But like, and
then he does it wrong.
Yeah. But, like, at the same time, like being in a position where you're directing people, you need to like, even if they're talking shit, you need to let them do that as long as they like eventually shut up and do their work. That's all you need from them. It doesn't matter if they're a shitter.
Yeah, and even just like you have to accept that you can't do everything yourself. Like you need to offload work.
Yeah.
Like sure, it might be like better if you did it yourself, but like the fact is that you don't have all the time. Like you need to be able to offload your work.
Yeah, exactly. And then just like the communication issues that ensue when you're trying to get a bunch of different people together, and like the whole too many cooks thing. It's like everybody wants to have their say, but things aren't going to happen on time or according to the plan that was established by the people in charge of establishing the plan, unless everyone's on board and working, uniformly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up two final things. One of them is how they have that video of Asakusa falling off the railing that they get 30,000 yen for. They just sell it on the I don't know where you're possibly selling this video to. What, like World Star Hip Hop? And they make the money and then they spend it so fast that they all pray to it or like have a moment of silence for it.
Right.
And while she's praying, Mizusaki is like, "Is this supposed to be a lot of money?" Like, I think the two of them are like, "Oh god, the 30,000's gone."
Right, because she's so fucking rich.
Yeah, because she says like in the first episode, she says something like, "My allowance is 100,000 yen," or "My birthday present was 100,000," something like that.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to bring up is how the producer Kanamori like kind of tricks them into making an anime about this one small like part of town that's about to shut down that has that like that ramen shop that they go to that's underground like in this leaky place. It's just very interesting.
Oh yeah, it's on a slant.
Yeah, like we're in Toronto, Canada, and Toronto is so big that it has like a bunch of places that look like they're run down and shut down like 5 years ago. Just imagine an anime being made for any of those streets.
Yep, there's magic in the dankest and darkest corners of any given cities.
Put that on Toronto's tourist brochure. All right, well, on that note, does anyone have anything else to say? Final thoughts? Anything?
No, I think we covered everything I want to say.
Would you guys recommend this anime? And to who? To whom?
That's a great question. And yeah, I would recommend this anime to pretty much anybody who goes out of their way to watch anime. Like if you're just a person who like an anime stumbles into your life once every like 5 years and you're like, "Oh yeah, I watched One Punch Man because it's on Netflix, but that's about it." Like maybe not that type of person, but if somebody like at least sees headlines online about like what the top 5 anime of each season could be, even if they don't watch them, as long as you see that headline and think about it, yeah, you should watch the show.
Yeah. And I think anyone in any kind of like creative like production role, like I think even if you're just like in film, I think you in like live action, I think you'd still get something out of this. Like I think you'd still like it in the end because it is kind of just like a love letter to like media production in general.
Anybody in any creative field could do it, even if you're a writer, just like typing away on your MacBook, like alone. You should watch the show. It's just it's a show about getting things done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say the exact same thing. I would recommend this to literally anybody who has like either a job or like an inkling towards creative production, just at all. Anyone who can appreciate how hard it is to make anything good, let alone anything at all, should watch this show. And I feel like this is in my Hall of Greats, man. Like this is something that just sort of popped out of nowhere and hit me square in the face, and it was perfect.
Nice. Agreed.
Yep, it's awesome.
And I think that's all we have to say on Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken.
We've been the Shonen Chumps.
We still are the Shonen Chumps.
And we will always be the Shonen Chumps?
I mean, hopefully.
I don't like that you phrase it as a question. Anyways.
Yeah, you can. I want to reiterate that you can listen to us on YouTube and Apple iTunes Podcasts and Spotify and SoundCloud, etc., etc. And you can email us at shonenchumps@gmail.com or tweet at us at shonenchumps.
Yeah, please email us and maybe leave an iTunes rating or something, because we have like 4 and one of them is 1 star with no commentary. So I don't know, man. Throw us a bone.
Probably a Violet Evergarden fan.
Whoa.
Okay, we'll see you later, and love you.
See you, Space Cowboy.
Equivalent exchange.
tiny, grubby hands